Dear learners, now I'll give a small glimpse about a topic which is considered to be important, little bit tricky and crucial as well. So let's see what is the topic. So before getting into the topic, I'll just give you a small glimpse about what happened to India after the decline of the Mughal Empire. See, the first Mughal ruler was Babur, who established the Mughal Empire in 1526, continued by his son Humayun. Then in between we had a small interregnum of Sher Shah Suri, and then followed by Humayun, the second term, with Akbar, Jahangir, Shah Jahan and Aurangzeb. The death of Aurangzeb in 1707 signaled the disintegration of the Mughal Empire. So by which we move on to the topic called the later Mughals. So when the later Mughals were ruling India from 1707 to 1858, lots of other kingdoms, regional powers emerged. So if you look at the independent kingdoms, which emerged, we divide them into three. As number one, the successive states. So the first one is a successive state. So who were the successive states, or which were the kingdom? We call them as successive states. A state which came out from the Mughal Empire. So example, the first successive state, we use the independent kingdom of Bengal. The second successive state was Awadh, and the third successive state was Hyderabad. And these three states were a part of Mughal Empire. They were integral part of the Mughal Empire. Say for example, Bengal was under the Nawab. So the governor of Bengal was called Nawab. In 1717, during the reign of Farooq Siyar, Murshid Quli Khan became the governor of Bengal. So in fact, we can call him as the last Mughal governor of Bengal was Murshid Quli Khan, because after that, it virtually kind of behaved like an independent kingdom only. But still, Mughals had control over Bengal. Mughals have control over Awadh. This was established by a governor called Sadat Khan Burhan ul Mulk, with its capital at Lucknow. And Bengal's capital was Murshidabad. Later, where it was shifted to Munger, and the East India Company was fortifying Fort William at Calcutta. Now Hyderabad, it's called the Asaf Jahi Dynasty, with its capital at Hyderabad. So this was founded by a noble called Nizam ul Mulk Asaf Jah. So these we call it as the successive state. The second type of state, we call it as the rebellious state. So in this rebellious state, the first state we see is the kingdom of Mysore. Of course, Marathas, the Jats, the Rohilas, the Sikhs were all there. So Mysore was a very powerful state which is classified as a rebellious state. And the third type of state, we call it as the regional state. The regional state, here we can put the kingdom of Travancore, the Rajputs. So they will all come. So this is how, India was divided after the fall of the Mughal Empire. Particularly, it started during the period of Farooq Siyar. And almost it broke during the reign of Muhammad Shah Rangila, particularly when the fall of Sayyid brothers took place. Now let's see what happened to the kingdom of Mysore. This kingdom of Mysore, it emerged as an arm length. It emerged as an offshoot from the breakage of the Vijayanagar Empire, where the feudal lords of Vijayanagar rulers were called the Wodeyars. See, these Wodeyars were ruling Mysore. So Mysore was under the control of the Wodeyars. So Wodeyars were the feudal lords of Vijayanagar rulers. So we call them as Wodeyars of Mysore. And the kings, they were very strong, very powerful. Now, when we look at the year 1760, so there was a young, energetic, kind of a soldier. He was called Hyder Ali. So we start the topic with Hyder Ali. So Hyder Ali was actually a Havaldar. He was a cavalryman who was having in charge of 200 soldiers under him. So this Hyder Ali, in 1760, he launched a coup against the Wodeyar king, Krishna Raja, his Prime Minister Purnaiya, the Diwan Devraj, and the Senapati Nangraj, and Hyder Ali occupied power. So that's why we call it as the state of Mysore. And Hyder was an illiterate. He was not educated. Same thing like Akbar, we connected. So in 1760, getting at 61, Hyder Ali proclaims himself to be the ruler of Mysore, and his rule continued till 1782. Hyder was a fantastic ruler of, very brave soldier, excellent commander, gave a threat to all the regional powers of South, kind of uncontrollable kind of a military strategist, a visionary also. So in fact, he expanded the kingdom of Mysore, and he actually carved an empire. So he built an arsenal at Dindakal. Even today, you can see that. So he made lots of, pathways to connect his kingdom. So today we use the term highways. Excellent commander and a warrior. So in 1767, Hyder attacked Madras and defeated the Britishers and occupied Madras. But since he lacked support and provisions and resources, the Treaty of Madras was signed, where though it proved Hyder to be on the victorious side, but the Britishers felt that Hyder was a threat. So during the period of Hyder Ali, we have the first Anglo-Mysore War was fought. First Anglo-Mysore War was fought in 1767 to 1769, which ended here with the Treaty of Madras. So it proved to be a successful career in a kind of a Hyder's culture. But Hyder was still not convinced. So he gained support from the Marathas, and he also gained support from the Nizam. They promised to help him. So Hyder, within 11 years, the second Anglo-Mysore War was fought. So getting it, so it was fought, it started in 1780 and it continued till 83. But at this point of time, in the middle of the war, Hyder died. He was defeated by an able kind of a British general called Sir Eyre Coote. After the defeat, Hyder just started moving, and in 1782, Hyder died. So his son, Tipu Sultan, was declared as the next ruler of Mysore. And the Mysore army was emotionally imbalanced. So the aged Ayerkut, he made a diplomatic move. And finally, Tipu, since they were all like worn out, he surrendered. And we have the Treaty of Mangalore signed in the Second Anglo-Mysore War. Now Tipu becomes the second ruler. Tipu was a great warrior. Of course, we all know he's called the Tiger of Mysore, a kind of a, he was not a bigot, he was not a fanatic ruler, he was very liberal. So Tipu was actually a scholar, and he actually was the first to introduce a new coinage to Mysore. He introduced a calendar. He enrolled himself as a member of the Jacobin Club of France, and he fortified his capital Srirangapattinam or Sheringapattinam. But he couldn't digest that his father was left out, by the Marathas and the Nizam in the last hour during the second Anglo-Mysore War. So he decided to take a revenge. But Tipu also was a great expansionist. So the rocket manual was returned. His court was having lots of scholars. He beautified his city and all of them. But when Tipu wanted to fight, he led, during Tipu's period, we have the third Anglo-Mysore War was fought during Tipu's period, and Tipu could not fight well, and meantime Tipu surrendered, where the Treaty of Srirangapattinam was signed, according to which Tipu has to pay a huge war indemnity, and he has to surrender his two sons so that he pay the war indemnity in installments and retrieve them. But still, the Britishers were able to diminish the power of Tipu, but they couldn't destroy Tipu. So Tipu again started building him so much, the Tree of Liberty, the Jacobin Club. He sent envoys to Kabul, Arabia, Turkey, France. He took for help from the French soldiers to train his army. And Tipu developed, since the domain, he ceded the northern Sarkars also, but still the domain was very small. Tipu was so energetic, he was so positive that he would actually win. And he also sent a royal correspondence to Napoleon Bonaparte, whereby Napoleon had one plan to attack the English colonies, and one big English colony was India. So, but during the period of Wellesley, when he introduced the subsidiary alliance in 1799, Tipu was actually given an invite for the subsidiary alliance. When Tipu refused, Wellesley declared war, which led to the Fourth Anglo-Mysore War. And here, the Srirangapattinam fort was captured, Tipu shot himself dead, and Mysore was captured by the Britishers. So in this, what are we learning? We are just trying to understand that how a rebellious state called Mysore, with father and son, developed so big, But with the calculative move of the East India Company under their governor generals, their target was only Mysore. And Mysore was never supported by the Marathas or the Nizam. So, which naturally made them to a downfall. So, getting it, Mysore was captured. And finally, Lord Wellesley put Mysore under the control of Wodeyars, where Krishna Raja was released. And the descendants, the family members took charge of the Mysore kingdom. And during Lord William Bentinck, there was misrule seen in Mysore. So William Bentinck sent an able commander called Marg. So Cuban attacked Mysore, and the Raja surrendered the administration to the company and was pensioned off. So even today, you can see the Cuban's Park there, which is very popular in and around Bangalore and Mysore. So this is about a short note about the independent kingdom called Mysore. Thank you.